All right, let's jump into things. Where we at? Just for 11, 10:56 on the 14th of March. So look, we'll start off with gold because obviously this is the main sort of thing going on at the moment, right up towards that sort of 3,000 benchmark there. Look, a couple of quick things just of note here. We're seeing, this last sort of dip pull down here. We're coming up into the 127 sort of percent fib, so 1.27 fib. It's obviously sort of completed this sort of little measured move and actually overshot it quite significantly. What are we up to? Sort of around 90. So it's being sort of like, I would say sold into, but it's early days yet. We'll see some volume probably coming in the next hour or so, and it's probably just biding its time and that. So we'll sort of see how this one goes out. It could be one of these things where it gets so close and so many people expecting 3,000, 3,000, and boom, it just pulls back and then sort of goes through there. So, certainly mega bullish, breaking all new highs again. It's been a while. It's been since back in 25th of Feb. Jeez, I mean, you get used to these sort of things, but maybe that's a trap as well. Because, I mean, just stand back and look at this run through this year. It has just been mammoth, and you had a fairly decent sort of pullback here. And remember, this is what we were saying back here into this sort of little buy zone, that, this is where, the market sort of goes, okay, yep, let's push it up again. Didn't even come to the 38% retracement of this move coming through here. And as we sort of say, like, these are where the fibs are important because, that shows that the market's not waiting, hey, let's get a nice technical retest and then let's push it forward. They're saying, look, I don't care. This thing's going to 3,000. I'm happy to pay here and sort of just jump the gun. And they push it straight back up even earlier. And then obviously, bang, here we are, sort of like, 10, 12 bucks or something off 3,000. So if we jump onto a slightly lower time frame, this is the 4 hour. This was the move. A couple of things to break down here. This was the big move that we were sort of saying, and this is what I was saying. This is the big consolidation with these lower lows to just take out the low, take out the low, take out the low, take out the low, and just sort of whip people out. But when you've got this nice, solid, defined line at the top here, this is a really bullish kind of sort of setup and that. And well, bullish continuation kind of setup can obviously sort of be, if you're seeing it upside down, you see it in the other direction. But very typical of silver. And I called this and sort of drew this out as it was sort of happening and saying, look, particularly when we got back down to these levels over here, like I bought a whack down over here in these 80s, 28 80s as well, mind you, and said, look, you know what I mean? This is a very bullish setup, particularly if we get to the top over here and then boof, it broke through and just ran up here. So I did miss part of this move coming up through here because I was trying to be very diligent and trying to be like, you know what, I'm going to wait, get this little pullback here to then sort of move back up. And obviously it decided to just go without me a little bit. Whoop, decided to go a little bit without me and is just ripped up here. And particularly last night, once it went through those all-time highs, these are the moves that we like to see because obviously you think about this is a big sell down here. And a lot of people, at one point or another, were shorting through here. I was shorting through here. I took profit. That's just the way that I trade. I'm not looking for the home run trade and, from one end to the other end kind of thing. But I was short through here, long through here. There are people that are shorting this thing up over here. And where are they going to put their stops? Well, the textbook says that I should put my stops just above the previous highs. So this is where they have their stops sitting through here. We've gone for stops. That's where they have their stops. Well, what happens when it comes up here is market pushes through, and these people go, ah, damn it, geez, I had my shorts, okay, protect myself. Well, it's going much higher now, and you know what, they were right, it did. But it's just sort of used that to feed this big move, and that's why this actual candle through here over these previous highs through 56 and 50s and all this was so big because this was just stops, 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 stops. And it's not just like everybody has their one stop at this level here, but people will scale them. Like people will have their stops here, people have their stops here, people have their stops here, people have their stops here. And these stops, when you close the stop, you got to, close a short position. It buys the position back. So it adds to the people buying. People are buying the break. People are buying, closing their shorts. It comes up here. hits these ones, because these people are like, oh, I'm smart, I'm not going to put it just where the textbook says, I'll put it a bit higher, and it goes forward and hits that. Those ones then trigger, move up, hit this one. Those ones trigger, move, hit up this, move, and so on and so on. And so, it's not just a sort of succession of just everybody's got their stops at this one point here. It's just that it's a sort of almost a reverse waterfall effect, and that's why you get that big mammoth sort of candle pushing out to the top side here. So look, as it is at the moment, obviously, as I said, it's sort of stalling a little bit. It's coming up at that fib level of that sort of last push. So it's overbought on the 4 hour. There is, look, everything's sort of cooling a little bit just on open here. But as I said, it's not really the time of day where you're like going, wow, this is the volume that's determining it. This could very easily just be a little bit of a flip down here, turn, flip, sorry, a little push back here, turn, flip, and then this could just hammer up to the top side. So let's get a couple of these off here. And we could see this definitely. I mean, you sort of think once you're at 3,000, that's a big juicy level. There's got to be a bunch of stops, obviously, through here, but there's got to be a bunch of mental stops as well. Like, it seems a bit crazy to go, oh, if it goes for 3,000, I'm out. Well, maybe people are more just sort of going to be taking profit from 3,000. You know what? They've got a benchmark, they've got a line, and they said, look, you know what? I've been buying this thing, I've ridden it through these pullbacks or whatever they've been doing. It seems like a nice big round number. Um, let it sit, let it happen, and then sort of wait for some pullbacks and some dips and see if they can sort of get back into these things. But I mean, what a trade it has been, honestly. Like, I mean, the whole thing, really. I mean, these parts through here, this was a nightmare of stuff. I got absolutely destroyed through this part here, and then made it back here, then lost a bit here. It was a very sort of hectic kind of month. But this is what I say with gold, and I'm sort of going back. This is actually, I haven't sort of rabbited on about this for a while, but look at these periods here, these consolidation periods here, and I said the same thing when we're doing this bit here. These areas are set up and defined to clear the book, in my opinion. Like, you're getting mammoth sort of pullbacks. There's a 6% sort of pullback from the highs over here. I mean, if you look at this sort of move over here as well, like from the highs here down to that lot there, there's an 8% pullback through these periods here. And, it's a higher high through this area, higher high here at this time. Wow, here we go. We made it all the way back up. Like, because remember, this thing was at this point here, pulled back 6.5%. And then came through, made a higher high. What did it do? Right back down to these lows over here again. And, this would have just absolutely screwed a lot of people because they're like, oh, look, it's come up here, and bang. I remember this. This is a drop that was interesting because I was trading this one with a mate. And this is one where we didn't get a back test. It just dropped like a stone and just, obviously, yeah, it made its way back up there eventually. But how that's relevant now is the point that, you see that these things are sort of developed and sort of made to basically, you know what I mean? It moves up, it trends beautifully, and these periods through here, very nice trade, and then just scrambles everybody. And then it moves up, and even this part here, it's a bit sort of got markings all over the place with this thing here. But you can see here as well, this is just another lot of it just scrambling everybody, scrambling everybody. Look at this one as the pullback here. As I said, it was still fairly shallow, but that equates to 4% pullback. And it's moved back up and it's taken out the highs. Do we see like what we saw previously? Do we see this thing sort of go boom and sort of like fall over a little bit? Or do we so many of these. I forget what I'm measuring at the time. Obviously, just a little pullbacks along the way. Um, do we see this thing sort of rocket on up near that sort of? You think you're so close to it there, may as well sort of give it a touch up. But again, maybe people are just sort of going, well, everybody's going to be sort of bucketing out at 3,000. Get out $10 early, sell into that, boom, push back down over there. So look, it could really go either way. The biggest moves have been the last two sessions. One with the breakout that we had sort of on CPI yesterday. Obviously, I think it was just after PPI that we really got that sort of move out there, and it's come out to the top side. So very bullish, big run. Wouldn't be surprised either way if this does sort of shoot up and then sort of pull back, or if it just straight sort of rolls over, pulls back from here. So yeah, I do think we are going to get some sort of selling happening soon. It's super, super bullish. We've had the measured moves played out. You've overshot these things. You've hit all the stops that are up here. You've dragged in some fresh longs. These are the sort of the ingredients to see as a reversal. You know what I mean? Like, sort of get the people that have just bought into this, sell into their hype, sell into the, oh, wow, look at this, it's a whole new big high, high, high. Sell into their hype, take the profit, and then buy back the tiers. So, you know, if I could sort of like, if we could see this sort of thing potentially sort of fail, but from this top up here, and then sort of maybe come back down to these zones, and maybe we could see that retest of like, you know, 29s, 20s or something like that. You know, I mean, these things can happen. It's been a very one direction trade up here. Once this does come off, it could move quite quickly straight back down. But again, as I said, this could still, it's just early days in the session now. We could see this flip, move up the top, but I wouldn't be surprised even if we do this, we will get some sort of pullback coming pretty soon. All right, so that was a lot to sort of take in, sort of rabbiting through sort of gold, but it has been an absolute mammoth of a trade. So very good for that one there. All right, and silver also pumping along, came out the top side here. We saw this sort of like, you know, resistance, pull back, and then just use that to sort of charge up and load and up, bang, out through the top here. So quite a significant sort of close for silver here. As you can see, up above this zone, if we put this, I think it was more a daily zone. Work out where the levels have gone. You can see market was hold, resistance, tipped into it, big sell down, bang, back through here. Again, look, I don't think this is going to see, like when I say these things could pull back, I don't think these things are coming back and like, you know, coming down 29s or anything like this at this stage, but you could see a little bit of a cool, like this is obviously shot up here, taken out a bunch of stops, big run overnight, hit 34, just under 34, yeah, 30, 33.95 or so, and change. You could see this sort of pull back, you know, maybe 40 cents and then maybe go up here. But I would say the fact that it was allowed to get back up into this area, up the top over here, I think is the very indicative of where it is going to be going. And this is this kind of more large channel that we could potentially be seeing play out here. Obviously, first target are the highs from last year, so highs from October. You break past October's highs, I'd be looking up here, 37. It seems like a crazy call, but you know, gold's at 3,000. Silver's got a little bit of sort of catch up to do. We'll look at sort of gold silver ratio in 1 second, but this is very much where I would see it sort of going to sort of complete this channel. Like it seems like these two lows here and these two highs sort of seem to sort of marry up quite well. Let's get this sort of stuff out here. um, Seem to marry up quite well, and so you know, there's definitely if you could take out October highs, I could see this thing back up around 37. You know, not going to happen tomorrow, but you know, certainly maybe April, May. I reckon we could be sort of targeting up over here. We'll just point out one thing here. This is very similar. This is what I was talking about with gold. You're moving in here, define a line, pull back, deeper pullback, up here, fourth touch, bang, explodes through. Same with gold though, as it exploded through, obviously sort of found a little bit of a resistance and subsequently sort of pulled right back for it all. So you know, not to say that sort of gold will be doing this or won't be doing it this session necessarily, but it does go to show that look, two things to take away from this. This is a very bullish setup. I've pointed this out a number of times. It comes up on every time frame with silver. If you trade silver, this is the setup you look for. Like even over here, we can see if I zoom this into a lower time frame, you can see I sort of called these out the other night. So one was this little one, lower, defined line, bang, broke up through, and this bigger one. We've got a bit of a defined line here. I didn't like these ones coming in a little bit lower at the time, to be honest, but you can see that defined line, lower, bang, and then explodes through to the top there as well. So, you know, as I said, this is why it's important to really only trade a couple of markets, in my opinion. Like, there's trades absolutely everywhere. You can trade anything. That's great. But you know what I mean? You pick up these little sort of nuances and little things about these markets, and you know that's what you can look for and sort of find very sort of profitable trades off these things. Um, back out to higher time frame. So yeah, look, where we are at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some just consolidation now that it's punched through here and held at the top. If we do start to sort of move up, as I said, 34 80s are probably the sort of target you'd be looking for. Break that. I don't see a reason why we can't go to 37. All right. Flip across. We got Aussie. Holding in there. Holding in there. Like it's had the little sort of flag break, found resistance, found sellers exactly where we kind of thought the sellers would be. It's come right back down here. And now we're sort of just chilling around this previous sort of support zone, top side of this sort of flag area here. I think, look, for this to sort of work, you're kind of looking at, which is this structure here. I mean, we did sort of see the reaction come back down here. But if you look at this now, whoop, actually get rid of that one, I probably don't need that. If we sort of look at this now and say, okay, here's your breakout, back test, bang. That's kind of what you're looking for this sort of flag move. Aussie does tend to do these when it does break a sort of falling resistance. Its back test will be below the breakout point. So here's your breakout point, comes right down here. It didn't really respect it as well as it could have. It would have liked a little bit more here, but it is holding the zone for now. I think get above 63, which again, round number, this kind of stuff. Above 63, I think you could see the move. And I think once you come back up to these levels here, you'll break through this time. So that's my sort of feeling. You got to get up to here. You got to get through 63, and then we'll see the move up. Because directions, like we have previously, we've seen sellers, buyers, sellers, whatever, boom, swapping back and forth in this level here. Once you get up here, if this holds and breaks through, so 63, shoot up to sort of 60.23, 63.23, sorry. If we see an absence of sellers at this point, which, tapped into it, tapped into it, tapped into it, and the buyers are moving up a little bit higher here, if we do see it back up here, I reckon that could be the time that we see a little bit of a breakthrough there. Should it sort of fail from this area? Look, there's a couple of little areas of support, but it's really starting to get pretty choppy around here. You got high, low, I see lower lows, lower high, higher low. It's just do, and it's not even like a nice defined triangle or anything. So yeah, it's a little bit of a sort of tough call at the moment. I think you got to be careful underneath 62.60. Under 62.60, you can see this pullback held there, pullback sort of kind of held around this area here as well. Under 62.60, you're probably looking at a little bit of a deeper sort of pullback. Probably sort of looking, as I said, probably around these kind of levels, or even this sort of rising sort of support, which would sort of be coming in around low 62s. So they're the two levels that I was sort of looking for a breakthrough. So I'll put a little box around it just for now. This here and here. I think this is pretty much going to give you a direction. This bottom line here has actually got a little bit of support down underneath it. So it's not like, okay, take out this wick at 70, bang, you're going down. You probably got at least down to 58, just where these previous wicks were. Obviously, we saw the market sort of value and shoot it back in at that point. But I'd say definitely under those wicks, you're probably looking down towards low 62s at this point. All right, flip along. We've got DXY. So this one actually traded very well last night in terms of structure and price action. This was the move that we were looking for yesterday, a drive up to this level here, and then a big sort of pushback from the sellers. And it's the same thing every time. Why is that? Because we got sellers here. You know what I mean? That's why we mark out these things. You go sort of, here's the pinpoint. So you got sellers here, you got sellers here. If you drag this back, actually, let's get this so it doesn't alter it. You got buyers here. So you can see that this is obviously a little bit of a zone, a little bit of an area, comes back into it and did exactly as we thought, market sold back into it. Didn't come all the way back down to these levels over here. So we'll sort of see how this one sort of plays out through this session. But I think this is really starting to sort of shape itself up, as the kind of level that you want to see it break. I could still see this being a bit of a rounded bottom. It's a little bit overbought at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a push back down, a little bit lower, but certainly it is starting to form a little bit of an area in which it could see a bit of a rounded bottom. I think above 104, look, that's going to move it up, but really till you're above 104.40, I don't think there's really too much in it at this stage. But this is a rounded bottom, or somewhat shaping up a bit of a rounded bottom. We got to see how it acts once it sort of comes back down into these zones over here, if it's going to hold again and then move up there, or even if it's just going to continue drifting up over here. We'll see how this goes. Certainly with these big wicks and that, you think sometimes they like to fill. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another couple of tests of this 104, even if it were to be going down to 101. So I'm a 101 person for DXY, but I am open to the idea that, obviously things don't go straight, so it could have a flare up before going down as well. So we'll see how these things are sort of lining up. I think silver actually get a little bit of a sell into just early in the session now. So that's actually just put in a lower high, a little bit of a sell there. But everything's a little bit all over the place. I think equities are probably due for a little bit of a bounce. They've been absolutely bashed for a while. So I've got a couple of little sort of medium-term swing positions on some indexes to sort of see if these things can see a little bit of recovery, even back to sort of say 23%. Still, because the sell downs have been so big, this is the beauty of these things. If you've got that powder dry and things get absolutely demolished, well, like I said, not everything goes in a straight line, that's fine. But if it goes really, really, really hard in a straight line, it doesn't take much for even just a shallow retracement, 23%, and you get a couple of 100 points out of these things. So certainly some interesting sort of trades going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. All right, and flip along. We've got copper. Copper pumping through to the top side there. This thing is just on fire. As I said, I would have liked a sort of deeper, maybe not this sort of deep pullback. I would have liked a bit of a deeper sort of pullback. I didn't sort of enact anything with copper. Copper is one of these things. I was saying this to a mate. It very much likes to dance around these trend lines. It sort of breaks this thing, comes down here, and then shoots all the way back up over here. So look, right up there, right near that sort of 5 line, a little bit, 4.9 at the moment. Look, I do think that you're probably sort of due to go 5.10 for a touch up here. RSI is pretty hot. We're seeing a little bit of a sell in. As I said, metals are stalling a little bit just on the open here. Nothing major at this point, but so just bear with me 1 second. Nothing major at this point, but as I said, I could see these things just at least consolidate these big moves overnight before we sort of see any sort of further gains. But you would think sort of 510 is probably the level of where it's going at the moment. Maybe a bit of a pullback and then reload and go. And finally, China. China has been very much trying to hold this major support. Like, we knew this support was going to be tough to go through. You can see how strong it's been over here, and you can see how crucial it is for them to hold it above this level here. So got a very fast reaction. If we jump on a lower time frame, very fast reaction as it actually touched down here the other day. It's drifted up, boom, 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 boom. It's just back to respecting this sort of medium, sort of kind of nothingness, too much sort of resistance. You can see the sellers are holding it in this zone. I think if you can break above sort of like 425, what am I saying? Dyslexia sort of coming out there. 7.255. Look, you could drift back up towards 727. But as I said, I think any of these things are really just more just grind it, and it's just delaying the inevitable. I think it is going down lower, and I think this large rising support, rising support is probably where it's due and destined to hit over the next couple of months. So I'll sort of be keeping a close eye on that one there. All right, gold silver ratio. Testing this line down here. Let's jump on the 4 hour at least for this one. You can see obviously sort of with that big move on metals overnight, it really sort of is respecting this chart very well. So let's move this out of here. So the idea, obviously, breakdown here. This is where it was valued. Buyer stepped in, buyer stepped in. They did that again, retest, and then smacked straight back down into it. Don't know if it's right to go quite yet, but certainly I think once this goes, this is your next target, which is the medium-term rising support. which isn't too far off at this stage. But even so, you could see a move like this can equate to $50 moves on gold. So what happens when it comes down here, and what happens when that breaks as well? Gold 4,000 or something like this. Geez, who knows? But point is that it's holding this level again, as you can see. So this is an important line. I said this yesterday or the day before when we broke this level here. This was the target. That's it. Fine. It acted beautifully. It's come back up, rejected where it was previous in support, and now it's resistance. So what it means is markets valued it. Markets valued it. It's pushing up again. When this does break, it will be significant. It'll be sort of, okay, well, you know what, we've taken out that level because the market's holding it. The market is looking at this line, and that's what you want to do with the technical analysis. You want to go, okay, look, this is what the market's looking at. I can see it because they're reacting from this line. So what happens when they don't react there? You know what I mean? There's so many different ways you can do technical analysis, so many different things you can cut up. Not everything works on every chart because not every market trades exactly the same. The people that are moving these things, that aren't all doing the thing, the collective, a lot of people aren't all trading horizontals or fibs or whatever. And so when you find out what they are trading and you see that break, that's when you see the fireworks. And when you see these things break and fast move, not just break and then dribble out to the side. I've done this a number of times where you're trading like a falling resistance and you're trying to catch a bottom and it sort of comes through and it's okay, technically it's through the falling resistance, but it just dribbles out sideways. Market is not watching that. What you want to see is fireworks as that happens because they're sort of trading that and they've put their stops above that. Those stops get hit, bang. That's what people are trading. But yeah, anyway, I'll get onto this another time with it all. But certainly, you got to find what the market is actually looking at and then trade that. So I think that's about it for the charts. Flip along. So I think it was pretty flat on the news and that sort of through today. We did have PPI overnight. If I can just refresh this one. As you can see, revised up quite strongly actually. It was 4 up to 6, 3 up to 5. Still expectation was down and it came in even lower. Wow, I didn't actually see how low those numbers were. So this is why, you're seeing these sort of, look, a continued sort of pushback on DXY. Look, the actual initial reaction, I was sending it to a mate and I was saying, look, you know, my prediction for these, because the thing is, you need to go into these things going, what's the data going to be? What's the price action going to be around it? Because that's how you trade it. My prediction was that it would come in lighter, DXY would sort of shoot down. One sec, just going through, seeing if I can find the post. 11:30 or something, wasn't it? For what it's worth. That was the post. So metal struggling to break a little bit higher here. That's fine. Looking for a spike down on DXY, then a reverse in that. And that's exactly what we got. We got DXY sort of shot down. If we go back onto the chart, you can see this is what we had. We had, where was the data here? Little spike down here, and then reversed, bang, right up into the top over here. You know what I mean? So you need to have a little bit of a sort of a prediction about these things so you can trade them accordingly. Otherwise, there's no point. You should really just sort of sit back and watch them. But beside the point of it all, obviously came in sort of super light there. Unemployment, they get this pretty much on the money each week, and that's a couple of thousand either side of it all. So yeah, it's not really a great sort of thing to sort of see here. But yeah, I think that's about it in terms of sort of data and news and that sort of coming through at the moment. A little bit of Euro data and that later on. GDP coming out of the UK, looking to sort of slow down a little bit there. And then, of course, there we go. Some consumer sentiment sort of way into the last sort of bit of data for the week. So we'll see how all this sort of plays out. Metals are getting sold into as we speak. Equities are pushing off the lows. All right, that's it from me.